Big conclusion, right? Woo! Yeah.
Well, if you want to get off to a roaring start,
well, let me rock it to you. So I'm watching Piers Morgan, very excited because Ron Paul was on Piers Morgan yesterday. And here's how the show opened.
Ron Paul is not going to be your next president.
Okay. I'm like, all right. This is awesome. This is going to be a great show. He is not going to be your next president.
So why are millions of young people hanging on every word from the 76-year-old Texas congressman?
The old kook. Why are they listening to the old kook? It was actually a very, very good interview. It's too bad no one watches this stuff. And I'm going to play two passages because Ron Paul lays out some things that we have spoken about so explicitly for so many years. And you can just see that Piers Morgan, he does not penetrate that watermelon on his shoulders. He just does not understand what is being said. And the first thing is about the unemployment numbers. Now, I think going back to when I was in London, John, when you explained to me the first time how these unemployment numbers are basically cooked, and what they don't do is count the people who have fallen off the radar and have become bums, essentially. And that's how you can manipulate these numbers. I mean, this is literally 4 or 5 years we've been talking about this, correct?
Yeah. And then there are numbers, if there's three numbers you can deal with. There's the one that they keep telling us about. Then there's the U6, which is an old calculation, which is closer to the truth, which is around 15.5%. And then there's the true unemployment, which is including the bums and everybody in between, that a company out of San Francisco called Shadow Stats generates. And that number is closer to 25%.
So Ron Paul explains to Piers Morgan why these numbers are bogus. And you can just hear him, pre-programmed robot that he is, just not understanding what is actually Are you okay? You just fart?
Oh, I blew my nose in the direction outside the microphone. I can do it again if you want closer.
Yeah, good. Do it closer. Nice. Yeah. Here, let me try it.
I'm congested.
Here we go. That's better.
Yet today, we saw jobless figures which are the best since he became president. Do you give him credit for that? Do you think he's doing a good job in reducing the jobless figures, or how would you summarize your feelings?
I wouldn't give him too much credit. Of course, everybody should be pleased that there are more jobs now than there were a month ago, but they're pretty puny to what we should be doing. But if you look at those figures and dissect them out, they're not all that glamorous, because during that last month, 1.2 million people dropped out of the workforce. So if you get 200,000 new jobs and 1.2 dropped out, you still lost 1 million jobs. So if you take that into consideration, you can't turn these people into non-people. You can't fudge.
I love that. You can't just make them into non-people. You can't just do that. Well, apparently you can.
The figures, and that's what politicians do.
I understand.
Wait, let me just,
I understand, but I'm not going to listen to you.
Got to finish that. If you do that, actually, the unemployment rate is 11%, not 8.5. It went up, rather than gone down. If you count these
Isn't
people.
there a problem here, though, that if all the Republicans keep dumping on what are apparently good figures, then
he didn't hear it. Apparently good figures, but the Republicans are dumping.
Momentum, the positivity that America needs to get itself out of recession gets stymied a bit. I mean, I'm going to read you a quote here, which I thought was classic.
Can I answer that?
Well, let me just read you.
He's not listening. He is not. It's like that thing on he has poop in his head.
This quote, this is from Jeb Hensarling, who's a Republican representative. He said, "Today is an indication of another failure of his president's policies. 36 months in a row of 8% plus unemployment," which is a ludicrous way of spinning it. How can you say this is another example of a president getting things wrong on a day when actually the official figures, whichever way you dress them up,
he doesn't even understand what he's saying himself,
are positive? Isn't the better...
It's not positive. Now, Ron Paul's going to try it one more time.
I suppose the more credible position for Republicans to say, I am encouraged by this, but he should have gone further.
To me, it's more important you admit the truth. So if I'm speaking the truth, so we might have to compare figures and all. But let's assume for a second that I'm speaking the truth.
Oh, that would be crazy.
And the 200,000 new jobs was a net benefit. But what I'm saying is we quit counting people. We disavowed them. So if I'm speaking the truth, the most important thing is we know the truth, not a politics. Matter of fact, you'll probably have me a hard time. You probably haven't heard me in a speech. I do talk about the president a little bit, mainly on attack on civil liberties and maybe not doing enough about the wars. So I'm not in that same people that say, well, the president didn't do enough. It's all the president's fault, because it isn't.
So, but Piers Morgan clearly just it's amazing to me how the guy he's literally saying the numbers are cooked, and then Piers Morgan spits it back and says, well, even if the numbers are cooked, they're still positive. Like,
now he's such a bad interviewer, and obviously so bigoted that I don't see how anyone watches that show. I mean, you can watch it once in a while, you get some, but he just seems brain dead. I don't see him connecting with the guests hardly ever. Once in a while, someone will come on and he seems to have some rapport with them, but generally speaking, he's just dissociated. It's very difficult to get an audience to like that.
Hey, there's the
hey, how about that?
There's the 918 right on time.
Yep, there it goes.
Burlington Northern. They're giving you a toot. They're like, hey, you guys, you guys are wasting.
One of those high-speed rails is actually a passenger train, and it's going. Looks like it's doing about 20 miles an hour.
But he's tooting his horn to remind us that we're wasting our time.
There was a dog on the tracks.
So then, very interesting. Ron Paul brought up which another thing we've talked about so many times, about the lie that is being propagated by everyone in government worldwide now, particularly as it pertains to Iran, about Ahmadinejad apparently saying he wants to wipe Israel from the face of the map. And we know that's not what he said. But that's been twisted into this meme, which of course it's mind control and done for a very specific reason, which is obviously to go and kill some more brown people in the sand. And Ron Paul lays it out very clearly. But this exchange, it just, I'll have to play a douchebag after it.
Assume you become President Ron Paul. If Iran was to strike back at Israel, what would you do?
Well, I'd go and look to the rules, and the rules are that if our national security is threatened, you explain it to the people, and then you go to the Congress and say, is our national security threatened to such a degree that we declare war against a particular country?
If you believed that Iran had enough enriched uranium to genuinely launch a nuclear attack against Israel, would that knowledge alone mean that you would countenance military action?
One thing that we should set aside is there's our CIA and the Mossad. Israel are not arguing that they have the case, and even Israel said, the leader of the Mossad said, even if they had a weapon, it's not an existential threat to them.
So you wouldn't ever countenance any preemptive strike?
No, not really. Why should we? That's aggression.
You should have seen Ron Paul's face when he said that's aggression. What kind of douchebag Brit are you? You just go and kill people. That's not the way we operate here.
We're not supposed to commit aggression. I mean, that's left for the dictators. But we now don't do aggression, but what we do is preemptive war.
But if you had got knowledge,
preemptive war is equivalent to.
Now listen to Morgan try and work his way into a logical conclusion to go and kill these people.
And I think it's very dangerous.
But they have already said, Ahmadinejad has made it quite clear he believes in wiping out Israel if he got the chance.
Okay.
If you were president in the Second World War and you'd been given knowledge the Japanese were planning Pearl Harbor, you would have preemptively struck, wouldn't you?
Well, let me touch your first subject first, and that is quoting Ahmadinejad, because that's a misquote, but 99% of the people in the media would misquote it, and everybody in Washington believes it. What he actually said on the proper interpretation was that the regime in charge of Jerusalem should be removed from the pages of time. He did not say that Israel should be wiped from the face of the earth. Just think of the difference on that, removing a regime like getting rid of our administration or something.
Now how do we respond to that as a true journalist? Should we delve into it or just ignore it? What do you think? Well, I think we should ignore it.
Seriously defending Ahmadinejad, eh?
No, in fact, let's attack the guy. You're not defending him, are you? Oh.
I'm trying to defend honesty, and I'm trying to defend openness, and willing to stop a war. Just
you see him as a threat?
Please let me finish my sentence. Just like John Kennedy was able to talk to Khrushchev. If we can talk to Khrushchev and he had 30,000 missiles, why can't we talk to a country that doesn't have a nuclear missile? And they're not, according to the record, they're not on the verge of it either.
The reason I'm pushing on this is a lot of Americans who, may like you personally or whatever, but they think you're weak on this because of the preemptive issue. And I come back to that question I put to you. If you had knowledge, and you were president when Pearl Harbor happened, if you had pre-knowledge of that happening, would you have attacked Japan?
An imminent attack. We're seeing the planes come over, obviously, yes. An imminent attack.
Well, I mean intelligence, it may happen.
An imminent attack is quite different when the planes are coming versus this fiction. We shouldn't have such short memories.
Now, he's going to wrap it up in 30 seconds, but he's going to do it beautifully. But he's making a very important point here, which you, by the way, should use at your cocktail parties.
Everything they're saying about Iran, we said about Iraq, and they were all lies. And how many men died? 8,500 Americans died. 44,000 come back crippled.
I totally agree with you about Iraq.
But it's the same principle.
As a newspaper
editor, yes, I was against the war in Iraq.
As a newspaper editor back in Britain, I opposed the war in Iraq vigorously and loudly for 2 years.
Then you should oppose us going into Iran.
I think Iran is a different situation.
Why?
Because I think that they would, if they could, consider attacking Israel. And if you're America, you can't let that happen. And the Israelis are looking to America for leadership on them.
Why shouldn't they depend on the British? Why doesn't the British take care of them? They have a lot of influence up there. Let all the British kids go over there and die.
Yeah, exactly. Send your own kids, Piers Morgan. Send your kids there to go die. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So instead of this guy becoming president, as we've just heard, because CNN says he won't be your next president, we're going to get this Romney douchebag and his wife. 15 seconds of this made me throw up in my mouth. She comes out to announce her husband, Ann Romney, and listen to what she says.
Once again, I'm here to make sure that you listen to me this time and obey when I tell you don't clap until...
Obey me, slaves!
That's good.
Did you hear her say that?
Yeah.
I want you to obey me. As First Lady, you will obey Ann Romney. Oh, I want you to obey me. Oh. So you can imagine I need a bucket now in the studio here at Camp Mofo. To puke in.
Where's the douchebag for Piers Morgan? That's what I was waiting for.
Oh.
Douchebag.
There you go.
I feel much better. Much better.